welcome viewers to another episode of the Mirae Asset Big Leap. It's a pleasure and a privilege to have with us one of our oldest partners and one of the very leading mutual fund distribution practitioners from Bangalore. We have the pleasure of having with us today Mr. Arunachalam Radhakrishnan. He needs no introduction to people in the profession. Very interesting nuggets about Sir has been that he is actually an engineering graduate who has worked in the engineering profession, and from there he went on to become a teacher in a management institute, talking and teaching about financial markets, and which he did very successfully for a large number of years. He has been interested in investments from a very young age, and then in 2003 he impaneled to become a mutual fund distributor, while from actually started practicing the profession from 2008 onwards. So it's been 12 years of actively being on the mutual fund distribution in the business. And today he's very successfully managing investments for more than 150 families in Bangalore and across India and across the world. So thank you so much, Mr. Radhakrishnan, for joining us on the Big Leap. It's our pleasure. We have known you for almost 12 years now since you started the practice. That's how old our business relationship has also been with you. So thank you for being a part of the Big Leap. We would like you to start by telling us about your journey. How did you start your mutual fund business practice?
Yeah. Thank you for this opportunity. So it helps me to reflect on what's gone by for the last 3 decades.
Sure.
So it all started in the late 80s as far as my introduction to capital market is concerned. And this is to a large extent thanks to my grandparents. So my grandfather was in Indian Bank as an AGM. So at that point of time, he used to invest in stocks. So that is how I got introduced to the capital markets. So from there, slowly I started investing the proceeds which I made, the profits which I made in capital market into mutual funds. And so parallelly I got introduced to mutual funds also, more as a vehicle to protect the savings and also for wealth preservation, distribution in every possible manner. Gradually I understood the product. So my first experience with mutual funds was more as an investor than as a distributor. So that's how it started. Then thereafter, as you said, I got into academics. So while in academics, I had the pleasure of teaching again the same subjects which I was really interested in, the financial institutions and markets. So over a decade, I was into teaching. And while into teaching, especially for final year students, I understood that many of them wanted to get into projects, and especially projects in areas related to insurance and mutual funds. So that is where those RMs who were working in those companies, they advised me, if you could empanel as a distributor, it would be easier for us to customize products for your students, and then your students participate in a large manner. So that is how this whole journey started. In order to help the students, I said, chalo, let's empanel with the asset management companies and see how to take it forward. So that is how I started. So more this transition from an investor to a distributor, from academics into practice. So that's how it started.
Lovely. So from 1980s, you have actually been an investor first and a distribution professional later on. So
yes.
What have been the investment ethos which you think you have seen over the last 3 decades now, which have helped you be such a successful distribution practice?
Right. The starting point was very much accidental. As I told you, though my grandfather inspired me, but the first investment was a real accident. How it happened was, on my way to college, I saw one poster saying public issue of. So that was a very famous issue at that point of time. I just came back home and told my grandfather I wanted to invest in this company. Though I did not have even 1 paisa with me, I told my grandfather I want to invest in this company. He was kind enough to give me a grand capital of 1,000 rupees. So that was how I started. I convinced him, you please give me this 1,000 rupees. Let anything happen, you give me an opportunity. So luckily he agreed. So that was the first experience. That issue was oversubscribed something like 200 or 250 times, which was a record at that point of time. Most of the people did not get allotment, almost 99% cases refund. To my great luck, I was one of the very few people who got allotment. So that 1,000 rupees what I put, I got full allotment for 100 shares. I eagerly waited for the listing day. It was almost a month. Those days it used to take a lot of time. So on listing, the 10 rupee share listed and the price we come to know only next day, because those days there was no live quotation. So next day when I saw the papers, I asked my grandfather what is the rate at which it has listed. The listing was 400. So overnight, my 1,000 rupees became 40,000 rupees. That was my first experience in wealth creation in capital market. That one experience taught me a lot more lessons than what any number of textbooks or any number of lectures could have taught me. Because what we have to understand the background is, those days as a graduate engineer trainee, the grand salary was 2,000 rupees per month. So what I would have saved in 2 years, one public issue got it for me. 40,000 gain in a span of 1 month. So that was a very, very important lesson, especially when you are starting. It gives you the kick, that beginning, that to kickstart the investment journey. So that is how it started. But gradually, over a period of time, because by practice I am an engineer, I did not know anything about finance. So that is where, even though I worked in a locomotive company, I was always looking for an opportunity to get into finance. So that is how I got into ICFI Business School in '95. So the training there in ICFI Business School really kind of made things very systematic. It made me understand the whole investment process. So that was a very big learning. So what I was doing arbitrarily and randomly, I could do it very systematically thanks to the learning which I got in ICFI Business School. So two of my important gurus are, one is my grandfather and second is ICFI Business School. And thereafter on the field, interaction with the distributors, advisors, the fund managers, every day is a new learning day, every day new opportunities. So that is how things have gone on. And luckily, we had some of the best phase of Indian capital market in 90s and 2000s. Because post liberalization, there was enormous opportunity which cropped up in the services sector. So that really provided a lot of booster to the capital market, and the number of players who participated and the people who invested their capital, there was tremendous wealth creation. So those 2 decades were incredible decades to be an investor. Whereas unfortunately, the last decade was a forgettable decade as an investor, because hardly the capital market has done anything from 2008 till date. Especially once I became a distributor, from 2008 till date, we have hardly doubled from 21,000 Sensex to just about touching 40,000 now. So we have gone at a CAGR of 5%. So the last decade definitely has not been that great, but the 2 previous decades in 90s and 2000s have been absolutely fantastic. And the kind of mega trends which emerged in that entire process, from textiles to cement to outsourcing to the infrastructure boom to the consumer and pharmaceutical, the entire journey was absolutely fabulous over the first 2 decades. The last decade, we are trying to consolidate, regroup, rebuild. Hopefully, the next decade should be far better.
Lovely. So what I can see from that, from what you say, is to actually make money and to create wealth from capital markets, you cannot look at even 2 or 3 years. You are talking about 2 or 3 decades.
Correct.
So
No
that's very heartening to see that that is the type of outlook which you would have had as an investor, and probably that has creeped into your practice also, that to not look at small time frames but look at larger time frames.
Correct. Very true, sir. Very true. Because unfortunately, what has happened due to the media culture and the short-sightedness culture, today we are tracking on a hourly basis, day-to-day basis. But on day-to-day basis, nothing is going to happen. If we can increase the time horizon of our investments, the whole game changes completely. And the wealth creation which happens for both the investor and for all the intermediaries as well as the manufacturer, it is enormous opportunity once we can lengthen the time frame.
Lovely. So, sir, you have seen the business for such a long time. You have seen as an investor and also as a practitioner. What do you think have been the impact of regulatory changes on your practice?
Right. See, regulator has only one very important point from the beginning, if I can understand clearly. He has the customer in focus. Come what may, the customer should get what he deserves. If the customer wants to buy a particular category product, he is telling very clearly that he is telling the manufacturer, please create true to label products. So if you're selling a large cap, it better be a true large cap. If you're selling a multi-cap, it should be a pakka multi-cap. So from the point of view of a manufacturer, the regulator is telling, please create true to label products. And from the point of view of a distributor, all that the regulator is telling is, please identify, understand the suitability of the product for the investors. That is the only mantra. You match the product with the risk profile, the goal, the requirements of the investor, and please do not missell and do not give a wrong product to the investor. So these are the two important points which comes through as far as the regulator is concerned. And one very important point, sir, especially from the capital market point of view, the role of the regulator is of paramount importance, because unless and until the investor feels comfortable that his money is safe and that liquidity is there at any point of time, unless until those convictions come through for an investor, no individual will be willing to risk his or her hard-earned money. Because today, we can see what's happening in the chip funds, we can see what is happening in the smaller NBFCs. People don't have clarity at all. They don't have confidence. So whereas in the capital market context, regulator has been continuously tightening. This is extremely good because this makes the investors totally confident. He knows that my money will not go to dogs. So that is a very important confidence which the investor is getting.
Lovely, sir. One thing which you mentioned was to look at time frame when you are looking to create wealth from capital markets. What are the other things which you think are important for any practitioner to talk about, or for an investor to actually make money on both sides, other than time, which you can tell our viewers about?
Right. Especially during this last couple of years of volatility, once in 2008, 9, 7, 8, and as well as now in 20, what has really come through is the importance of diversification, asset allocation, multi-asset focus, geographical diversification. All these have become extremely important. We cannot put all our eggs in one basket and hope that things will go on very fine. That is not possible at all. All of us have to make sure that either our personal investments or client investments, they are adequately diversified, and make sure that you are investing in non-correlated assets. Because if all the assets are correlated in which you are investing, everything will go down together, everything will recover together. That will increase the volatility of the portfolio. So very consciously, in order to mitigate risk, we have to make sure that we invest in non-correlated assets. So this is a very important field which is emerging, which we have to go into in detail and make sure that the client portfolio is pandemic proof, volatility proof. That's extremely important, because we cannot only bank on good tides to last all the time. So if the market comes crashing down, I should be adequately prepared. I should be insured. So this is one of the very important learnings in the current context.
So what you are talking about would also mean that, if I think about it a little deeper, it would also mean that there is a lot of pre-transaction hand-holding and discussion to be done, because
Correct.
all of that, what you're talking about, is something to get an investor or a practitioner ready before you actually decide where to put in money. That is a very small part of the discussion.
Correct.
The utility of the money, the objective is more important, and that will decide the whole portfolio.
Very true. And important, what as the regulator says, KYC should not be a mechanical KYC. It should be a real know your customer. We should know our customer thoroughly.
Lovely.
We should not give unduly risky products to customers. Only give the products which are suitable for the requirement, which is very, very important, sir. Because one thing I've understood in this data analytics world is, if you are not going to analyze your customer, someone else is going to analyze your customer. Because today, data is money. So this entire way the whole thing is going, if you do not understand your customer well, either the customer will migrate or somebody else will offer a better solution to the customer depending on their requirement. So all of us as practitioners have to make sure that we put adequate effort to understand each and every one of our customers, each and every one of our families whom we are handling. So it is not just a AUM, it is not a number. It is the hopes and aspirations, the life, the goal of each of the families. So this is what we have to keep in mind.
Lovely. So my last question to all our guests have always been, especially in these pandemic times, and now we are trying to come out of this special situation that we are in. How do you see this profession going ahead?
Right. So here again, the regulator has given us two roads, either to continue as MFD or to continue as RIA. So as far as MFD is concerned, the job is very clear. You only give incidental advice and only that advice which is necessary to sell the product based on the suitability of investors. So all of us have to make sure that we comply with what the regulator is telling. Do not overstep. Make sure we stick to this. And within this, do all that is necessary to develop the business. It starts from right from knowing the customer, offering suitable products, only selling what you yourself will buy. Do not missell. And also, one very important thing which we all have to keep in mind is, if you look at any of the other professions, let us say CA profession, ACS profession, in all these professions, they make sure that their numbers grow in large number. So if your profession has to really grow, you have to make sure that you attract more and more bright minds to the industry. For this, there is the responsibility of all the stakeholders concerned, whether it is the manufacturer, whether it is the distributor. All of us have to put our efforts to make sure that we are able to attract young talent to this industry. Imagine we are talking of this mutual fund industry scaling up from 25 lakh crore to 100 lakh crore within a decade. So you just think the number of distributors you will need. You are currently having less than 10,000 active distributors in the country. This number has to increase 5 to 10 times within the next decade. So we need to come up with a joint strategy to make sure that we're able to attract good talent at the college level. There, like how the CA Foundation program is there, we should have a MFD Foundation program at the BCom level, or a RIA Foundation program at the BCom level. So what happens? The awareness will increase, more youngsters will come into this profession. When more youngsters come in, automatically more investors will also come in, because we are sitting on a demographic dividend. More than 1 crore youngsters are going to hit the job market every year. So if keeping this in mind, over the next decade, one of the important challenges for all of us and one of the important role for all of us is how to attract young talent to this industry, motivate them, use them to increase the assets of the industry manifold, and improve the investor experience also as we go forward.
So thank you so much, Mr. Radhakrishnan. I think there are some real strong points for all our viewers to take from this. My learning would be to first think as an investor and then look as a practitioner, and that's where probably 90% of the problems get sorted out once you put yourself in the investor's shoes.
Very true.
So thank you so much again for being a part of the Big Leap. Thank you so much for your association with Mirae Asset. We have immensely gained from this and from our relationship, and with this interview. We wish you all the best, and we look forward to many more success for you. And thank you, viewers, for engaging with us and going through this very interesting episode of the Big Leap. We wish to bring much more such success stories again in the future. Till then, take care, and thank you so much once again.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.